welcome into the Solo Shot Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Dom Manna. Happy Solo Shot Tuesday edition here on Election Day. Make sure if you're listening to this and you haven't went out and vote yet, bet you do. I hope that those of you that couldn't go today did vote early because it is important to utilize our right to do so and be the change we want to see in this world. Speaking of being the change, this 2025 Major League Baseball season didn't just change a lot for this podcast. I think the podcast took another level here in 2025. But it really, I think, changed a lot of things for baseball. And the fact that we had our first Game 7 of the World Series since 2019. And as a whole, you can put this World Series right up there with the 2019 Astros Nationals. You can put it right up there with the 2016 Cubs versus Indians. This is one of the best World Series of our lifetime. And unfortunately, like every great showing, every great competition, someone has to win and someone has to lose. The old adage in the wide world of sports, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. The Dodgers, to me, were just a team you can't bet against. That they're on the status of a Tom Brady in football, of a LeBron James in basketball. You just don't bet against a great organization, a great team that has the star power, that's been there before, that's done that. And the Dodgers did what they had to do to win. And it wasn't just on the back of star power. It wasn't Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and Shohei Ohtani all hitting 500 and carrying the rest of this team to a title like it can be in the NFL or MLB, where one or two star players can put the team on its back. It was a litany of guys. Game 2, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, complete game, which was huge, allowing the Dodgers bullpen that had been spent the day before when Blake Snell didn't have it in Game 1 to not just get that day of rest, but also get the travel day of rest. So having 2 days off heading into the 3-game set in Toronto. And it proved to pay dividends because we had a record-tying 18-inning classic in Game 3 where the Dodgers needed every single arm that they could muster, including Will Klein, who I do not want his efforts to be overshadowed in this World Series. There's always one or two guys that the national media do not cover, have not heard of. Will Klein got thrusted into this opportunity, pitched 4 innings, got the win in the 18-inning game where Freddie Freeman became the only player ever to have 2 walk-off home runs in World Series play, as he walked it off for the Dodgers in the 18th. But Yamamoto's complete game set up the Dodgers bullpen to be able to be utilized to their full potential and gain that 2-1 lead. And while the Blue Jays did fight back and win games 4 and 5, heading into Toronto with a 3-2 game lead, I still could not count the Dodgers out. And it was because you're talking about a truly, truly great team. You're talking about Yoshinobu Yamamoto coming up again to start in Game 6, and I was almost confident that regardless of how this World Series ends, there was going to be a Game 7. But talking about the heroics of the under-talked-about players, it was the 9th inning of Game 6. Tyler Glasnow, who was supposed to start Game 7, was in the game in relief for only the second time since he was a rookie in Pittsburgh. He had came in relief in the Phillies series prior. Gets his first career save on 3 pitches. One, because he got Ernie Clement, who had the most hits in a single postseason by any player ever. That's going to be a fun trivia nugget to use once the recency bias is gone and people forget about this amazing run that Ernie Clements has had. Gets him to pop up on the first pitch, being aggressive with runners on second and third, with nobody out. But they got in that situation because of a heads-up play by Kike Hernandez. Addison Barger, who hit the first pinch hit grand slam in baseball history in game one, hit a double, which looked to be an RBI triple or potentially even an inside the park home run. The ball got ever so slightly wedged into the bottom of the wall. Kike Hernandez put his hands up for dead ball, shouted over to Dean, the center fielder, to put his hands up for a dead ball, and they ruled it a ground rule double. Saved a run, kept it 3-2, runners on second and third. You get the pop-up by Clement, and then Kike Hernandez gets to be the hero again because he catches Barger too far off of second base and makes an amazing throw to Rojas, who had a fantastic game 6 and 7 after riding the bench almost the entire postseason. Miguel Rojas makes an amazing pick at second off a great throw by Kike. They double off Barger. Game ended on a double play, which is the first time that had happened since the 1964 World Series, where Curt Flood grounded into a double play. So it wasn't a 7-3 double play. It was a traditional double play that Curt Flood ended on. This proved huge for two reasons. One, it forced a game 7, and anything goes in a game 7. But Addison Barger being too far off the bag, having too aggressive of a lead, impacted game 7 significantly. And it was because after Miguel Rojas tied the game off of Jeff Hoffman, who had not given up a home run all postseason, despite the numbers during the regular season showing that he was prone to giving up home runs, and Miguel Rojas not having hit a home run since early September, Miguel Rojas, the number 9 hitter, runs into a pitch and ties the game in the 9th inning. Chills. I had absolute chills. I could not believe my eyes. But because of that play the night before, because of Kike Hernandez and Miguel Rojas doubling off Addison Barger for having too aggressive of a lead, when it was the bottom of the 9th in game 7, and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who had pinch ran for Bo Bichette, was on third base with the bases loaded as the tying run, or the winning run, excuse me. He was so dang close to the bag. And I understand he said in interviews that the coach told him to stay close to the bag. But you have to know the psychology of the sport. And for just the night before, Addison Barger potentially costing the Blue Jays the World Series by getting doubled off in scoring position, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, instead of taking a modest lead, a normal 6 to 8 inch lead, he was about an inch off the bag. He was right on the bag. And he slid in feet first at a force out at home plate. If he had a normal lead and aggressively ran, because Miguel Rojas did not field that completely clean. He had to hesitate for a second, so he had a grip on the ball, made a perfect strike home. But those inches matter. The Kevin Dyson Super Bowl coming up just short of the end zone. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa had the chance to win the first World Series in Blue Jays history since 1993. Had the chance, 32 years. But because of what happened the night before, that mental thing, the Blue Jays third base coach reaffirming that thing that's in the back of his head by saying, we don't want to get doubled off here, stay tight, cost the Blue Jays a walk-off World Series win. Will Smith went on in extra innings. We got 2 extra inning games in the World Series, which does not happen very often. I hope you all appreciated that extra baseball. Will Smith, who had caught the most innings in a single World Series ever because of those extra innings, ended up hitting the home run. They had moved him up in the order from 5th to 2nd. He'd been coming in clutch, and because of where he was hitting between Ohtani and Freeman, he was getting a lot of good looks. Ohtani and Smith ends up hitting a home run to take the lead in the 11th. And Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who had came in relief in this Game 7 winner takes all, after pitching 6 innings and 96 pitches the day before, after pitching a complete game in Game 2, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, I talked about it last year, when you win a World Series, it makes these big contracts worth it. Like, to me, you got a championship in the Ohtani era. The rest is all gravy. You're putting yourself in position to win more, but that one makes it worth it. Yamamoto having this postseason that he did, this historic postseason, this historic World Series, which resulted in him deservingly winning the World Series MVP. Because outside of Ohtani, there was clutch hits, there was timely hitting, but there was not great offensive performers on the Dodgers in this series outside of Ohtani. Yamamoto has earned his $326 million record for a pitcher contract in just 2 years. He was solid last year, was a contributor to their championship, but this year he was a driving force. They say in the playoffs that great pitching beats great hitting. The Blue Jays had an all-time offensive postseason in terms of 10-plus run games, in terms of OPS, in terms of slugging percentage, hits. They were one of the best postseason offenses we've ever seen. The Dodgers got to throw Snell, Yamamoto, Glasnow, Ohtani at you in a 7-game series. It's tough to win 4 games. So hats off to the Dodgers. Shohei Ohtani did not have quite the performance that he had hitting a home run while shutting things down on the mound like he did in the NLCS, where I thought he would win MVP because of it. But the Dodgers did what they had to do to win, and it wasn't just the stars. It was great defensive plays. Andy Pages, defensive substitution, running over Kike Hernandez. I audibly gasped and got out of my seat thinking that collision and those two guys not calling each other off was going to result in a World Series loss for the Dodgers. And Andy Pages, who had a historically bad postseason with the bat, would have probably gotten shipped to Siberia. It would have probably been wraps for him. He would have been out of the Dodgers organization. I don't know how many other teams would have given him a chance. But he makes the play. He Supermans it, and he makes the play. This Dodgers team just knows how to win. Dave Roberts knows how to win. I talked about it last year when they won the World Series. Dave Roberts is building a Hall of Fame legacy as a manager. And you see so many teams that have talent. The Phillies most recently, that have Hall of Fame level talent, all-stars, MVP, and Cy Young candidates. But they can't win the big games. They can't do the little things. Some moments get too big. No moments in the Dave Roberts era of this modern-day Dodgers baseball have gotten too big. Between the guys that can play multiple positions, the Chris Taylors, the Kike Hernandez, the Tommy Edmonds, the Miguel Rojas of the world, all the way to their Cy Youngs and MVPs. The Dodgers have put on an absolute masterclass, and I understand that the majority of national fans outside of LA hate their guts. They're the new evil empire. Don't want to see them win anybody but the Dodgers. I choose, as an appreciator of baseball, as a lover of history, to soak in what I'm seeing. Because not only was this a historically great World Series, like I said, multiple extra inning games, great performances both on the mound as well as at the plate, Ohtani in that 18-inning game, going 4 for 4 with a game-tying home run, walking 5 times in an 18-inning classic. The stuff we're getting to see, the stuff we're lucky enough to witness as baseball fans, that the Dodgers are giving us and look to continue to be giving us, as they have many of their core pieces signed through 2028 and beyond, is something that I'm going to choose to appreciate. I'm not going to choose to hate on it. I know some of my friends call me Dodger Dom for doing so. But you got to respect greatness. Whether it's your team that's on top of the world or a team across the coast. Hats off to the Dodgers. I hope they enjoy this championship. And they will continue to be one of the favorites as long as this nucleus under Doc is in place. But my hats are also off to the Blue Jays. Because like I said, Game 7, anything can happen. My hats are off to the Blue Jays. Ernie Clement, like I said, a record 30 hits in a single postseason. Will be a fun trivia fact for years to come. He made himself some money, I think, down the line. Bo Bichette with the 3-run home run in Game 7 to give the Blue Jays an early lead. I think that will help big time with his free agency. He led the American League in hits this year, had a nice bounce back as I predicted he would. Heading into free agency, I think he'll get a nice contract, most likely, I think, to be playing second base as he did because he was coming off the injury in this postseason and Jimenez was playing such a great defensive shortstop. But Bo Bichette, I think, will still get big-time money to be a very good hitting, decent defensive second baseman for the next half of his career. But Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is the one that I think my heart goes out for the most because his legacy had the most to gain from this World Series. Not just because he had recently signed a $500 million extension this offseason, but because Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is one of the best stars in this game in that tier past Judge and Ohtani, who are on another planet. Not only did he have a fantastic offensive year, 4.5 WAR, 172 hits, 23 home runs, 292 batting average, scored 96 runs, drove in 84, had a 133 OPS plus during the regular season. But this postseason, he took things to another level. And it was an absolute pleasure to watch. In the ALDS, he hit 529, 550 with a 1059 slug. In the ALCS, he hit 385 with a 484 on base and an 846 slug. And then against that vaunted Dodgers starting staff, hit 333, 477 on base with a 600 slugging percentage. Good for a 1074 OPS plus. He had at least 18 total bases in every single series. He was the ALCS MVP. Had 2 home runs in this World Series. Had 10 hits. And I hope that he didn't just miss out on his best chance to win a World Series ring, both for himself, but as well as the city of Toronto, who had great fans that showed out both in LA as well as at home, made it a very uncomfortable environment to play in. They were very loud. They were very hungry. And those fans, the agony of defeat doesn't necessarily go to explain it because, like I said, in Game 3 in that extra inning game, if that went the Blue Jays' way, that could have been huge for the series. Had multiple opportunities with runners in scoring position in the bottom of in the ninth and extra innings for the Blue Jays, weren't able to get runners home. In Game 6, having Addison Barger get doubled off on second base, having that ground rule double call cost them at least 1 run. And then in Game 7, not having IKF be aggressive enough on the base paths with the bases loaded, missing out on a Vlad Jr. leadoff double, his last at-bat of the World Series. He turned on a pitch that was so far inside. The way he was able to turn on it and drive it, it it brought back so much nostalgia of his dad. Like that's the kind of pitch that only special hitters can get to, that can drive. I think Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has built the foundation of a future Hall of Fame career. And he talked about how if he won this World Series, he'd give that ring to his dad, because that's the one thing that his dad wasn't able to accomplish in his career. And I'm hoping that Toronto continues to build a winner, spend money, and try to win around Vladdy as they did. I think a World Series appearance and this performance merits it. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. clearly needs some help, and I hope he gets an opportunity to play deep into October and win a ring again, because, man, the kind of postseason that he had is right up there with David Ortiz's best postseasons, with Barry Bonds' 2002 postseason run, like some of the all-time great postseason in terms of overall hitting. Really, really special to watch, and the fact that we got to see him show up in the biggest moments, Shohei Ohtani show up in the biggest moments, great pitching on both sides, timely hitting, great defensive stops, double plays turned, rallies ended. It was an all-timer, and I hope all of you appreciated every single inning you could of it, because as soon as the World Series ended, I turned to my girlfriend and said that, man, I'm going to miss baseball. I miss it already. That was such a great culmination to such a great season that I appreciate each and every one of you for spending part of your week with me to talk about and go over. Now, during the World Series trophy celebration parade that the Dodgers had, this is the one benefit I get of not being first to market with reaction to the World Series ending, is that you get these quotes. And I think it's pretty established throughout major sports networks that you call someone a dynasty if they can win 3 in a 5-year span. The Dodgers now have 3 in a 6-year span, if you count 2020, and I know that was a different core, but Mookie Betts was on that team, Max Muncy was on that team, Clayton Kershaw was on that team. So there are some connective tissue that Dave Roberts obviously managed it. 3 in a 6-year window is nothing to sniff at. And Kike Hernandez, who, like I said, might have not been the MVP of the series, but in Game 6 was truly the MVP of the game. Now a 3-time champion. Call him Little Poppy. He's a great postseason performer. Will play anywhere. Hits really well. Kike Hernandez had one of those all-time stage rants where he talked about a dynasty and that the back-to-back champs, we can do whatever we want. And I will not repeat the whole entire thing. I will leave that in the description below, and you can listen to it yourself. But the root of what he's trying to say is that you can try to take it away from a team that is really, really good if they are able to win one, like the 90s Braves. They were really good, but they were only able to win one championship. The fact that the Dodgers were able to win back-to-back for the first time in National League history since the 70s Reds, the Big Red Machine, and the first time since the Yankees did in the late 90s, early 2000s, they are on that pedestal of, we can start calling them a dynasty. I personally won't go there yet because, like I said, that 3 and 5 is important. But if you don't think that the chances are that they, in the next 3 years, are able to win one of those 3 championships at minimum, I think you're lying to yourself. I think that they're putting themselves in position to do that. Like I said, they have the players locked up over the next 3 seasons, most of their core, and they're going to add, as they always do, through trade and free agency. I think that dynasty is something that they have earned. And it's not something that you earn on paper. It's something you earn with results. And like I said, that they don't just have such an accumulation of talent, but they have players that are unselfish, that know how to win, know how to do the little things right. And I think in the modern game of baseball, with analytics and with different approaches at the plate, a lot of the the art of the little game that we play, the bunting guys over and the small ball and the short approach, uh, defensive positioning. A lot of those things have gotten a little blurred, have gotten a little lost on some players and some teams, but the Dodgers continue to know how to do that, and they're a force to be reckoned with. And the dynasty talk is something that's going to be talked about a lot all off season. I do not think that the Dodgers winning and being this successful is going to be the reason that we get a strike in 2027. I think that's happening regardless of who wins what World Series and what happens. I think that we've been on trajectory for that for years, even before the Dodgers got Ohtani and won again, and it did all those things. But the dynasty talk is real. They've earned it, and I'm not going to sit here and slander them or say that they didn't, that the Blue Jays lost this World Series, the Dodgers didn't win it. The Dodgers did everything that they possibly could when they needed to win 4 out of 7 games, and that's what it takes to win a World Series. And like I said, my hats are off to them. Here at the Solo Shot Sports Podcast, we had to throw it back down the third base line to this day in baseball history. And November 4th had quite a few historic things, some very early baseball, including one of the first major free agency disputes on November 4th, 1884, pitcher Tony Mullane violated an oral agreement to sign with the St. Louis Browns by signing for $5,000 with the Cincinnati Red Stockings of the American Association. That suspended Mullane for the 1885 season and fined him $1,000, but allowed him to remain with Cincinnati. Over the next 8 years, so Mullane got $4,000, essentially $5,000 minus 1, for 8 years, so $500 a year. He ended up winning 163 games with the Reds on his way to a career of 285 victories. Now, Tony Mullane is one of the better dead ball pitchers that is not in the Baseball Hall of Fame, like the 285 wins. If he had 15 more, he would just be one of those names that's like, oh yeah, 300-game winner, Hall of Famer. Tony Mullane does not hold any significant records. He did not win a bunch of pitching titles, wins, ERA, etc. But fun fact, Tony Mullane does have the record for wild pitches in a career. And if you look at the all-time list of wild pitches, he has a pretty substantial lead on that one. So Tony Mullane getting suspended in one of the first free agency disputes. And I will not be talking too much free agency today, as I do need to milk that out over the offseason. But it a precursor to some of the stuff that's going to happen here with the upcoming free agency and, like I said, the looming lockout, different things like that. NFL standout Cal Hubbard became an American League umpire on this date in 1935. Cal Hubbard, Hall of Fame defensive lineman, ended up becoming the first and only so far player inducted into both the Pro Football and National Baseball Hall of Fame. And he hit a guy to start in baseball on this date in 1935, was an umpire for over 20 years. Really, really successful career. But the thing that I wanted to talk about most was on this date in 1980, Japan's all-time home run hitter, Sadaharu Oh, retired from professional baseball. The Tokyo Yomiuri Giants first baseman hit a record 868 home runs in his 22-year playing career. Now, a lot of you have heard the name Sadaharu Oh, have heard that he hit more home runs than Babe Ruth or Josh Gibson. And the reason why the Hall of Fame signature at the bottom today is Shohei Ohtani is because, one, I believe that between his 4 MVPs that he's about to clinch, as well as the 50-50 season, coming back as a pitcher, having the playoff performance that he had, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer lock. Like they would waive the 10-year rule for him if they had to. He will be in the Hall of Fame. And with Ichiro's induction last year into the Baseball Hall of Fame, what he was able to accomplish while coming over from Japan in the age of 27, with what Shohei Ohtani's been able to accomplish in a limited amount of time, and with the Negro Leagues being established as major leagues in terms of their records, and that helping many candidates as well, I'm going to be putting my stake out on this. I believe as Yamamoto's success, Sasaki, we have some more Japanese players that are going to be coming over and trying to have the success that Shohei has had, that Ichiro had, Matsui, Darvish, guys that came before, Nomo. I believe Sadaharu O's clock for being inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame has started. I believe with Ichiro being inducted, with what Shohei Ohtani has been able to do, revolutionizing with this big influx of Japanese players that are not just coming over here, but are proving to be some of the best the sport has to offer. The Nippon League in Japan has a long, storied history of great players, many of which have played in Japan, have played a barnstorming series against American players. Many Major League Baseball players have also continued playing professionally over in Japan after their run with Major League Baseball teams have ended. There's a lot of ties to Japan, to that storied league, to a country that loves baseball as much as any of these Latin American countries, as much as Americans do. Sadaharu O and his historic career, it is mentioned in the museum at the Hall of Fame, but I believe the Sadaharu O career, which has now wrapped up 45 years ago today, will get honored with a plaque and put him and the most other deserving Japanese stars of history will start to trickle in as National Baseball Hall of Fame candidates. And I think Shohei Ohtani revolutionizing the sport, creating that connective tissue and that that bridge that these players are now coming across and succeeding at such a high level. I think that this is the beginning of the Nippon League and Japanese stars, starting with their biggest star, their Babe Ruth, Sadaharu O, and his 868 career home runs, getting inducted in Cooperstown someday. I think that honor and that bridge will continue to grow and shapen over the next decade of Ohtani's career to come. I appreciate you guys for spending Tuesday with me, wherever you may be listening. I will not be on this Saturday. I will get into my off-season routine the following Saturday, and I will be coming out with episodes every Saturday during the off-season. I have some lines sent out to some guests to have this off-season, to talk free agency, to talk baseball history, to bring you some more voices. And like I said, I think this was a big benchmark year for the podcast, but I want to continue to improve, to keep striving for more and more as the future goes on. The last thing I wanted to add before I got out of here was that the Hall of Fame, which I just mentioned, has released their contemporary era ballot. And it's a strong one. It's a backlogged one already. The 8 names that were named to this committee being Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Carlos Delgado, Jeff Kent, Gary Sheffield, Don Mattingly, Dale Murphy, and Fernando Valenzuela. Now, I'm a pretty big Hall guy. I think that Fernando is the one guy that I wouldn't check the box on. I think all of those 7 guys are Hall of Famers in my mind. Fernando had a good career, but not quite a great one. But a culturally significant name, a big-time name, and a honor just to be named on this ballot. What's really big about this and all future era committee elections, which Sadaharu O and the Japanese stars would fall into, I think, someday, is that they have added a stipulation that if you are unable to get over 25% of the vote, these are 16-man committees, so 5 or more votes. If you're unable to do that, the next cycle in 3 years, when it comes around, you will not be a eligible candidate. So if Bonds, Clemens, Mattingly, whoever your number one guy is on this ballot, if they get 4 or less votes, they will not be eligible in 2028 to be considered. If they come up again, so 6+ years later, if they come up again and they fail to get 5+ votes again, they don't have to be considered ever again. Now, this, as many things in the Baseball Hall of Fame and their era committees, will likely change over time when someone gets snubbed or different things happen. But the Baseball Hall of Fame is trying to put like a clock on some of these conversations. They're trying to, not every single year when these era committees come around, there being the same group of people chanting for X name. And I think that will make the voters' jobs in that room that much harder in terms of electing someone, because the threat of them falling off the ballot is just as strong as the threat of not getting them in while they're alive or when you think they're deserving to, when you think their time is. So I'm very interested to see. I will be surprised if we get multiple players elected out of this group for that reason. I think with the new rules, it's going to be really tough. I think we're going to see a lot of guys that are right around that 5 number. And maybe one guy that the consensus is able to get the 11 or 12 votes necessary to make him close for election, right on that line. But let me know in the comments below who of those 8, if you had 3 votes, you would vote for, what you think is going to happen. Free agency predictions, World Series reactions. I want to hear it all. Got plenty of time now here in the off season to talk. Suggestions for guests, suggestions for topics. Let me know in the comments below, or you can email me at dominicmanna44 at gmail.com. That's DOMINICMANNA44 at gmail.com with the subject line a solo shot. And I will respond to all of you when I can and take your considerations into play with some of the stuff that I already have thought of for the offseason and the 2026 Major League Baseball season to come. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you guys next Saturday.